Ryan Hale had lived on Outpost 7 for almost 2 years, and in all that time, nothing truly exciting ever happened. The outpost sat on the far edge of the galaxy, far from busy trade routes, far from important stations, and far from anyone who cared about life out there. It was a silent place where the stars looked brighter than anywhere else, a place where time moved slowly, and a place where a human could easily feel forgotten. Ryan did not mind the quiet. He liked working alone. He liked fixing machines, organizing old tools, and sending reports that nobody read. He enjoyed calm mornings where he could drink warm tea and watch the purple sunrise rise above the gas clouds nearby. He liked evenings when he could sit on the small roof and listen to the soft hum of the station's shield generator. Life was simple, peaceful, and predictable. But on one unusual day, everything changed. It began with a strange alarm. It was not loud. It was a soft beep that repeated at uneven times. Ryan turned toward the main screen and frowned. The alert came from Sector 4, a region he rarely visited because there was nothing there except rocks and dust. The signal showed a sudden crash landing. Something had fallen from space and hit the ground only 2 minutes ago. Ryan blinked. No ships usually came this far. Even pirates avoided the area since there was nothing to steal. Probably a broken satellite, he muttered. Still, his curiosity woke up. He grabbed his scanner, put on his outdoor jacket, and stepped out into the cool air. The sky above him shimmered between blue and silver as he took his hover bike and began riding across the rocky field. The ground was uneven, covered with crystal-like stones that glowed lightly when touched by sunlight. Ryan had always liked these stones. They made the outpost feel a little magical. The crash site was about 10 minutes away. Smoke curled up like thin fingers reaching for the sky. As Ryan came closer, he realized it was not a satellite. It was a small pod, round and made of dark alloy he had never seen before. The surface had glowing lines that slowly faded in and out, almost like breathing. Ryan stopped his bike, stepped off, and approached carefully. "Hello?" he called softly. No answer. The pod was cracked on one side with steam leaking out. Ryan scanned it with his handheld device. The readings confused him. The pod was biologically shielded, which meant it was carrying something alive. "Was someone inside?" he whispered. He placed his hand on the pod. It was warm. He looked at the crack and saw faint movement inside, small shapes shifting in the shadows. Ryan's heart began to beat faster. He crouched down and slowly widened the opening with gentle pressure. More steam escaped and the inside became clearer. That was when he froze. Inside the pod, curled up together and shivering, were 3 tiny creatures. They were about the size of kittens, with long tails, small wings, and shiny scales that reflected light like tiny jewels. They looked like baby dragons. Ryan blinked again and rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was imagining it. But he was not. The little creatures really were there, trembling, making soft squeaks. "Hello there," Ryan said softly, almost whispering. One of the hatchlings turned its head. Its eyes were bright golden, full of fear, but also curiosity. The creature tried to move but stumbled, too weak to stand. Another one let out a tiny cough, releasing a small spark of light. The third hid behind its siblings, curling its wings tightly. Ryan felt something warm in his chest. They were scared, alone, and without help they would not survive. He carefully reached out his hand. "I'm not going to hurt you." The golden-eyed one sniffed his fingers. Its nose was cold and surprisingly soft. Then, with slow steps, it crawled forward and pressed its head gently against his palm. The other 2 watched, shaking. Ryan looked around, hoping to see some adult creature nearby, but the entire crash site was empty. Only broken metal and burnt dust surrounded him. Whoever sent the pod was gone, or worse. "You're all alone, aren't you?" he whispered. The hatchlings squeaked again, softer this time, like they understood him. Ryan sighed. "All right, I'll help you. Come on." He took off his jacket and wrapped all three hatchlings inside it. They felt warm and light, like small pillows. They immediately huddled together for comfort. Ryan held them close and placed them on the hoverbike seat before climbing on. "Let's get you somewhere safe." He drove back carefully, making sure not to shake them too much. The smallest hatchling peeked from under the jacket, watching the passing scenery with wide eyes. When they reached the outpost, Ryan took them inside. His station was small, with plain metal walls and humming machines, but it was warm and safe. He placed the hatchlings on a soft blanket near the heater. They crawled onto it instantly and curled up, giving relieved little chirps. Ryan knelt beside them. "You must be hungry." He had no idea what baby dragon-like creatures ate, but he guessed they needed something soft. He warmed a bowl of nutrient paste he usually used for injured animals. He placed it in front of them. The golden-eyed one sniffed it carefully, then began eating with tiny bites. The other two followed. Ryan smiled when he saw them eating with small, excited squeaks, their tails wagging slightly. He watched them for a long time, thinking about what he had found. These creatures were rare, too rare. He had read stories about dragon-like aliens before. Some were peaceful, some were not. But none matched the appearance of these hatchlings. Still, something inside him said it did not matter what they were. What mattered was that they needed help, and he could give it. After they ate, the hatchlings moved closer to Ryan again. The smallest one tried to climb onto his knee but was too weak, so Ryan gently lifted it. It nuzzled against his chest, purring softly. The other two followed, curling up beside him. They felt warm, like tiny living lanterns. "You trust me already?" he said with a soft laugh. The golden-eyed hatchling looked at him and blinked slowly, like a tiny nod. Ryan stroked their soft scales. Each had a different color, one silver-blue, one gold-red, and one green-black. He decided he'd give them simple names later. For now, they just needed rest. As the hatchlings slept, Ryan stood and checked the broken pod again through the window. It had unusual energy readings. It was clearly built to protect something valuable. But who sent it? Why did it crash? And why were the hatchlings alone? Ryan felt a strange worry growing inside him. He had found something important, something the galaxy might care about. But he pushed the thought aside. The hatchlings needed him more than anyone else right now. When he returned to them, he found all three awake again. They stretched their little wings and squeaked happily when they saw him. They tried to walk, stumbling clumsily, their tails swinging back and forth. The silver-blue one approached a storage box and poked it carefully with its nose. The box made a soft sound, and the hatchling jumped back in surprise, then repeated the poke, curious. Ryan laughed. "You're exploring already." The gold-red hatchling fluttered its tiny wings and managed to hop a few inches off the floor before falling gently on its belly, letting out a confused chirp. The green-black one stayed close to Ryan, resting one small paw on his boot. In that moment, Ryan felt something shift quietly in his heart. He had always been alone on the outpost. He had always worked without company, without conversation, without warmth. But now, 3 tiny lives depended on him. 3 tiny beings trusted him, and he realized he liked that feeling. When evening came, the hatchlings all gathered near him again. They curled up together beside his workstation, falling asleep to the soft sound of machinery. Ryan watched them until his eyes grew heavy. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know where the hatchlings came from or what they were meant to become. He also did not know that these tiny creatures were the heirs of the most powerful dragon species in the galaxy. He only knew one thing: he had to protect them. And with that simple promise forming in his heart, Ryan closed his eyes, unaware that this one act of kindness would one day change the entire galaxy. Days passed, and Ryan quickly realized that life on Outpost 7 had changed forever. The three hatchlings were growing fast, much faster than he had expected. Each day they became more active, more curious, and more alive. The golden-eyed one, which Ryan had started calling Sol, was the bravest. It would hop onto his shoulder without hesitation, chirping happily whenever he moved around the station. The silver-blue one, now named Lume, was quieter and more cautious. It preferred exploring corners and peeking out of small gaps in walls, always watching and learning. The green-black one, Shade, was clever and playful, often hiding behind crates and jumping out to surprise him. Ryan laughed more in those days than he had in years. Their small scales glittered in the station lights, and their tiny wings twitched in excitement whenever something caught their attention. They were growing stronger, but still too small to fly far. He decided it was time to teach them how to control their little sparks and glows. "All right, Sol, Lume, Shade," Ryan said one morning, kneeling on the soft floor with a tray of glowing crystals. "Today we try something new. Gentle sparks only, okay?" Sol hopped forward first. Ryan held a tiny crystal between his fingers. With a careful breath, Sol let out a small, controlled spark that danced above the crystal. It was bright and warm, but safe. Ryan clapped softly. "Good job!" Lume followed, concentrating hard. Its small sparks flickered like tiny fireflies before settling gently on the floor. Shade was last, bouncing excitedly before managing a little spark that floated in the air for a few seconds before disappearing. Ryan smiled. Teaching them control would take time, but they were learning fast. Evenings became the best part of the day. Ryan would sit in the observation room, letting the hatchlings play around him as he recorded data on their growth. He had started keeping notes, their favorite foods, their sleeping patterns, their reactions to sound and light. He realized that each hatchling had its own personality. Sol was brave and bold, Lume careful and thoughtful, and Shade mischievous, yet affectionate. Sometimes the hatchlings would curl around him as he typed, their tiny scales brushing against his arms. Ryan often felt a warmth that was more than just their small bodies. It was a feeling of family, of trust, of connection that he had never experienced before. But life on Outpost 7 was not entirely peaceful. Ryan had begun to notice unusual signals on the station's scanners, energy readings that didn't match anything he had seen before. They were faint at first, almost like whispers. Then, one evening, a strong signal appeared coming from just outside the station. Ryan frowned, holding Sol in his arms while Lume and Shade perched on his shoulders. "Something's out there," he said softly. "I don't know what, but we need to be careful." The hatchlings reacted immediately. Sol's tail flicked nervously, and it chirped softly. Lume crouched low, wings slightly raised. Shade hissed, a sound Ryan had never heard before, small but fierce. Ryan touched the console, scanning the signal. "It's not a ship." "Not exactly," he muttered. "It's alive. I think it's alive." For the first time, he realized how vulnerable the hatchlings really were. They had survived the crash, but the galaxy was vast, and there were beings out there far stronger than he was. Ryan tightened his hold on them. "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." Night fell, and the outpost became quiet again. The hatchlings slept near him, curling up in a triangle, their tiny bodies glowing faintly in the dark. Ryan watched them and whispered, "You're safe here. I promise." Over the next few weeks, Ryan began teaching the hatchlings more skills. He showed them how to move quietly across the station without knocking things over, how to sense vibrations in the walls, and how to respond to his voice with small gestures. Sol learned fastest, Lume was careful but consistent, and Shade was always surprising him with new tricks. One afternoon, while Ryan was repairing a power conduit, He heard a soft knock on the outer door. His heart skipped a beat. No one ever came here. He glanced at the hatchlings, who were now watching the door with wide, alert eyes. Ryan cautiously opened the door. A small drone hovered outside, sending holographic signals. It was carrying a message from the Galactic Council, an organization responsible for tracking unusual species. The message was simple but alarming. Alert! Missing Vorak drake eggs detected in outer sectors. Any sightings must be reported immediately. Ryan's heart pounded. Vorak drakes. He had read stories about them. They were not just dragons, they were the most powerful creatures in the galaxy. Some fleets had tried to fight them and had been destroyed. Adults were terrifying. And these hatchlings, these were their eggs. Ryan looked down at Sol, Loom, and Shade. They were tiny, playful, and helpless compared to the creatures he had read about. He had been caring for the heirs of a species feared by every intelligent being in the galaxy. But the hatchlings did not look dangerous. They looked at him with trusting eyes, curling around his hands and shoulders. And in that moment, Ryan made a decision. "They're my responsibility," he whispered, "no matter what." Days turned into weeks, and Ryan adjusted to life under new stress. He reinforced the station, hid energy signatures, and kept a careful eye on communications. He became more protective than ever. The hatchlings noticed his change in behavior and responded in their own way, always staying close, always alert. One afternoon, Shade managed to jump onto the control panel and accidentally triggered a holographic simulation. A tiny fireball appeared on the floor. Instead of panicking, Ryan watched carefully. Shade's eyes widened, then it looked at him, waiting for guidance. "Easy," Ryan said, slowly moving a hand. "You can control it. Watch me." He demonstrated, letting a controlled spark float from his gloved hand. Shade mimicked him, and to Ryan's relief, the fireball followed his movements. Sol and Loom joined in, their small sparks dancing in the air like tiny fireworks. Ryan laughed aloud. "You're learning so fast!" The laughter was interrupted by a soft vibration through the floor. Something was approaching the station. Not a ship, but something alive. The hatchlings stiffened, their small bodies glowing faintly. Ryan's pulse quickened. He rushed to the sensors and saw movement in the rocks outside. Shadows moved with strange, unnatural speed. He knew he had to act fast. "Back, all of you. Stay close." The hatchlings obeyed instantly. Sol climbed onto his shoulder, Loom crouched at his feet, and Shade perched on a nearby ledge. Ryan activated the station's emergency shields, feeling a mix of fear and determination. Whoever or whatever was out there would not get them without a fight. Hours passed, and the shadows remained outside, moving but not attacking. Ryan watched them cautiously. He realized that the galaxy had begun noticing the hatchlings. The missing eggs were being hunted, and now he was involved. Despite the danger, Ryan felt proud of the hatchlings. They had grown stronger, more responsive, and more attached to him every day. He realized they were not just dependent on him. They had begun to protect him in small ways, sensing danger before he did, alerting him with soft chirps and glows. One night, after the shadows disappeared, Ryan sat with the hatchlings around a small fire he had made in the station's fireplace. Sol curled up on his lap, Loom leaned against his arm, and Shade rested near his boot. "You know," Ryan said softly, "you've changed my life. I thought I could handle being alone, but I never imagined this." The hatchlings responded with soft chirps, like they understood him. Ryan smiled and continued. "I don't know where you came from or what the galaxy wants from you, but I will protect you. I promise." As the stars shone brightly through the station's windows, Ryan realized one truth. He had found something more important than fame, more important than duty. He had found family, and he did not yet understand it. But the hatchlings were beginning to see him as more than just a caretaker. They were beginning to see him as someone they could trust, someone who could guide them in a galaxy filled with danger, someone who could teach them kindness when fear had always been the rule. For Ryan, life on Outpost 7 had changed forever. And for the hatchlings, a new world full of warmth, trust, and safety had begun. Little did they know, the galaxy was starting to pay attention, and soon their peaceful days would be challenged in ways none of them could yet imagine. But for now, in the quiet safety of the station, Ryan and the three hatchlings learned together. They learned how to eat, how to sleep, how to trust, and how to play. They learned that even in the vast, dangerous galaxy, one human could make a difference. And as Ryan drifted to sleep that night with Sol curled on his chest, Loom leaning on his arm, and Shade tucked near his feet, he knew, without fully understanding, the adventure of a lifetime was only beginning. The quiet days at Outpost 7 could not last forever. Ryan had known that the hatchlings' presence in the station might attract attention, but he had hoped it would be small, or at least slow. He had been wrong. It started with the first scan. Ryan had been repairing a communications array when the station sensors picked up a movement near the outer perimeter. At first, he thought it was a meteor or some harmless drifting debris, but the reading changed rapidly. Something alive, something large, and moving fast. Ryan's heart sank. He had been careful. He had masked the station's energy signatures and kept all transmissions encrypted. How had anyone detected the hatchlings? Not good, he muttered, glancing at Sol, Loom, and Shade. They were perched on a ledge near the observation window, watching him with bright, curious eyes. He crouched beside them, stroking their tiny scales. "We might have visitors soon. Stay calm, okay?" The hatchlings chirped softly, as if understanding. Their trust in him was now absolute. Then the patrol ship arrived. Ryan had never seen anything like it. A sleek black vessel glided silently toward the station. Its sensors lit up, scanning the area with precision. Lights flashed across the ship's surface, signaling communications, warnings, and tracking protocols. Ryan's stomach tightened. This was no ordinary patrol. He knew it immediately. These were the Galactic Council's ships, the organization responsible for monitoring rare and dangerous species, and they had come for the hatchlings. He quickly ushered the hatchlings into a safe room, a reinforced chamber he had built for emergencies. The room was small, with soft floors and walls lined with energy-absorbing material. It was not a prison, it was a safe space. Sol, Loom, and Shade huddled together, their small wings twitching nervously. Sol looked at Ryan with its golden eyes, almost asking him silently, "Are we safe?" "You are safe," Ryan whispered, his voice steady even though his heart raced. "I will protect you." The patrol ship's communication system activated. A calm, robotic voice echoed through the station. "Outpost 7, identify yourself and declare all biological entities in your possession. Non-compliance will result in immediate intervention." Ryan's mind raced. If he revealed the hatchlings, they would be taken away. But if he hid them, the patrol could destroy the station. He had to think fast. "I am Ryan Hale," he replied over the communicator, trying to keep his voice calm. "I found an injured alien pod nearby. I am caring for the creatures inside. They are harmless." The reply came almost immediately. "Vorak Drake eggs detected. Transmission confirmed. Outpost 7, you are now under investigation. Surrender the entities immediately." Ryan froze. Vorak Drakes. The words echoed in his mind. He had read stories about them in old galactic history records. Adult Vorak Drakes were feared across galaxies. They could destroy ships with a single breath, crush entire armies, and resist most weapons. and these hatchlings were their heirs. He looked at the tiny dragons, now huddled together, trembling but trusting him completely. He could not give them up. Not now, not ever. Ryan quickly accessed the station's defense systems. Nothing lethal, he had no intention of killing anyone, but enough to slow down intruders. Energy barriers activated, shields, hums rose, and the station's lights flickered as it prepared for a tense standoff. The hatchlings seemed to sense the tension. Sul clung to his shoulder, Loom pressed close to his side, and Shade watched the door intently, wings slightly raised. It was as if they knew something dangerous was out there, and they wanted to help. Ryan swallowed hard. "Stay calm, everyone. We can get through this." The patrol ship did not immediately attack. Instead, it hovered near the station, scanning, observing, calculating. Ryan watched from the control panel, trying to anticipate their next move. Minutes felt like hours. Then, a small drone entered the station's outer perimeter. Its sensors scanned for life forms, moving carefully through the rocky terrain. The hatchlings reacted instantly. Saul flapped its tiny wings, releasing a small, controlled spark that illuminated the room. Loom followed, and Shade added a streak of green-black light, all carefully directed at the approaching drone. Ryan smiled softly. "Good. You're learning to protect yourselves." The drone paused. Its sensors recalibrating. It transmitted a new message back to the patrol ship. Ryan could see the ship's reaction immediately. The crew inside was confused. The hatchlings' small energy displays were enough to interfere with their scans, making it difficult to track their exact location. Ryan realized something important. These hatchlings, though tiny, were already showing abilities beyond what most humans could imagine. They could manipulate energy in ways that disrupted technology. They were not defenseless. Hours passed. The patrol ship finally retreated to a distance, unsure of what to do. Ryan exhaled deeply. The immediate danger had passed, but he knew it was only temporary. Word of the missing Vorak Drake eggs would spread quickly. More ships, more hunters, more curiosity seekers. They would all come looking. He returned to the safe room and knelt beside the hatchlings. Sol blinked at him, golden eyes bright and alert. Loom pressed its head against his arm, and Shade let out a small, happy chirp. "You're amazing," Ryan whispered. "You really are. But we have to be careful. They'll come back." He spent the next day reinforcing the station's defenses, creating hidden energy signatures, and preparing secret escape routes. The hatchlings watched him work, absorbing every motion, every word. They were learning not just from him, but from the environment itself. Ryan realized that the hatchlings were growing smarter. They responded to danger quickly, learned from mistakes, and even began anticipating his instructions. Sul would try small protective maneuvers, Loom observed patterns of energy flow, and Shade tested reactions of moving objects. It was as if they were preparing themselves for challenges far beyond their size. By evening, Ryan allowed himself a rare moment of relaxation. He sat with the hatchlings near the observation window, watching the stars twinkle beyond the station's shields. Sol curled up on his lap. Loom leaned against his arm, and Shade rested near his feet. "You know," Ryan said softly, "no matter what happens, I won't give up on you. I don't care if the galaxy is coming for you. We'll face it together." The hatchlings chirped in response. Their small bodies glowed faintly in the dim light, a silent promise of loyalty and trust. Ryan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not known in years. The galaxy might be vast and dangerous, but here in this quiet station, a small bond had formed, one that could survive even the greatest challenges. He did not know it yet, but the hatchlings were also forming a bond of their own. They had begun to understand something important. Ryan was not just their caretaker, he was their family. And for creatures as powerful as Vorak drakes, that bond was more rare and more precious than anything else in the galaxy. The next morning, Ryan woke to find the hatchlings playing with small tools and crystals he had left for them. They were agile, careful, and completely in sync with each other. He watched them with pride. "They're growing fast," he murmured. "Faster than I thought possible." Suddenly, the station's sensors picked up another signal, faint at first, then growing stronger. This time, Ryan did not panic immediately. He studied it carefully. The readings were unusual, unlike any ship or drone he had encountered. Energy readings matched that of a living being, large, powerful, and intelligent. Ryan's eyes widened. Could it be one of the adult Vorak drakes? He had no choice but to prepare. He gathered the hatchlings and brought them into the safe room. Sul flapped its wings nervously, Loom hid close to him, and Shade moved to the corner, ready to act. "This is serious," Ryan said, voice steady. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. You trust me, right?" The hatchlings responded with soft chirps and gentle touches. They were ready. As the energy signal approached, Ryan realized the truth. The galaxy had finally begun to take notice, and the quiet life on Outpost 7 was over. But he also realized something else. These tiny, glowing hatchlings who had started out weak and scared were already proving themselves stronger than he had imagined. And together, there was nothing they could not face. For the first time, Ryan felt a surge of hope. The danger was real, the stakes were high, but he was no longer alone. And the hatchlings, small though they were, had already begun to show the kind of power and loyalty that could change everything. The galaxy might be coming for them, but Ryan and the hatchlings were ready to meet it. And so, as the stars glimmered outside the observation window, the small family, Humyn and hatchlings, prepared for the challenges that lay ahead, unaware that their bond was about to be tested in ways they could never have imagined. The quiet that had returned to Outpost 7 was only temporary. Ryan knew it in his bones. The hatchlings had grown faster than he had expected, but their size could not protect them from the vast galaxy. Something much larger, much older, and far more powerful was coming. It began with a tremor. The station shook lightly, faint at first, like the echo of a distant drum. Sul, Loom, and Shade immediately perked up, their wings trembling as they huddled close to Ryan. "Something's here," Ryan whispered. He placed his hands on their small bodies, trying to reassure them. "Stay calm. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Outside, the sensors went wild. Energy readings spiked beyond anything Ryan had seen. A massive form approached, moving slowly through the void of space. It was unlike any ship or vessel. Its presence radiated life, power, and authority. The readings were unmistakable. Ryan's heart stopped. The Dragon Monarch had arrived. He had read about it in old galactic records. The Monarch was the last of the ancient Vorak drakes, a creature so powerful that entire fleets had been destroyed merely for challenging it. Its scales were said to reflect starlight, its wings could stir storms across planets, and its breath, well, few beings survived to tell the story. Ryan glanced at the hatchlings. Sol's golden eyes were wide, Loom's silver-blue scales gleamed faintly, and Shade's green-black wings twitched nervously. They were small, still learning, yet their loyalty to him was absolute. "Don't worry," he said softly, though his own voice trembled. "We'll be okay. Just trust me." The Monarch's presence filled the station with a low hum of energy. Lights flickered, the shields shivered, and even the walls seemed to vibrate with power. Ryan could feel it through the soles of his boots, a force so ancient, so immense, that it could crush the station if it chose. Then a voice echoed, not through speakers, not through comms, but directly into Ryan's mind. It was deep, resonant, and filled with authority. "Where are my children?" Ryan froze. The hatchlings stirred, recognizing the voice immediately. They chirped softly, glancing up at him. It was clear. They knew this voice. "They're here," Ryan whispered aloud, unsure if speaking would make it worse. I found them. They were alone. I helped them." There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again, gentler this time. "You have cared for them?" "Yes," Ryan said firmly. "I kept them safe, fed them, protected them. I did everything I could." Another pause, longer this time. The hatchlings inched closer to him, sensing the monarch's presence but not afraid. They chirped softly, wings fluttering. Finally, the monarch's tone softened, almost imperceptibly. "You have given them what few could. You have shown them kindness. I acknowledge this." Ryan exhaled, relief flooding through him. The monarch, feared across galaxies, recognized his care. But relief was only partial. The monarch was powerful, and power often came with caution. Ryan knew any wrong move could destroy everything. Outside, small council ships had arrived, drawn by the presence of the monarch. They hovered cautiously, weapons ready, unsure how to respond to a creature of such magnitude. Ryan realized that if the monarch chose to act defensively, these ships and the station would be destroyed instantly. The hatchlings chirped again, their small bodies glowing faintly as if they understood the tension in the room. Sul climbed onto Ryan's shoulder, Loom pressed against his side, and Shade perched on the edge of a console, wings twitching nervously. "Stay calm," Ryan whispered. "Just stay calm." The monarch moved closer, massive wings stretching across space like shadows in starlight. Its eyes glowed faintly, like twin suns. And then, in a gesture that startled Ryan, it lowered its head toward the station, directing its gaze at him personally. "You will not harm them?" "No," Ryan replied immediately. "I would never hurt them. I would protect them with my life." Another pause. The monarch's gaze seemed to pierce every thought, every intention. Ryan felt his fear, his loyalty, and his honesty laid bare. He held his stance, not daring to flinch. Finally, the monarch's wings shifted, and it spoke once more. "Then you are under my protection. But heed this. The galaxy will test you, Humyn. Others will come, seeking my children. You must be ready." Ryan nodded, swallowing hard. "I will. I promise." The monarch's massive presence lingered a moment longer before moving slightly away from the station. Ryan could feel the tension ease, but he also knew the galaxy's attention had only grown stronger. The council ships hovered cautiously, scanning the monarch but not daring to approach closer. Even they understood that challenging a creature like this could mean certain destruction. Ryan watched the monarch disappear into the darkness of space. He felt a mix of awe, fear, and relief. The hatchlings, sensing the shift, chirped happily and fluttered their wings. Saul nudged his shoulder. Loom pressed against his arm and Shade flitted excitedly around the room. "You're safe, for now," Ryan whispered. "The monarch acknowledges your bond with me. That means something. That means everything." Over the next few days, the station returned to a quiet routine, though the tension never fully left. Ryan reinforced shields, hid energy signatures, and trained the hatchlings more rigorously. Their growth was astonishing. Sol learned to control sparks and minor energy flows with precision. Loom studied Ryan's every movement, learning patterns and routines. Shade became agile, playful, and increasingly strategic. Ryan realized they were not only growing stronger physically, they were growing intelligent in ways he had not anticipated. Each day, they learned more about communication, movement, and subtle energy control. Then, one morning, a small council vessel approached cautiously. Unlike before, it did not carry weapons. Instead, it transmitted a simple message. We observe the bond between human and hatchlings. We request cooperation. The Vorak drakes are a species of great importance. They must not be harmed. Ryan realized that the monarch's presence had already changed the galaxy's perception. A human had cared for the last hatchlings of the Deadliest dragon, and even the council could not ignore the bond. Good, Ryan said softly. That's a start. The hatchlings chirped, as if agreeing. They had become more than just dependent creatures. They were forming a partnership with him, a family that would face the galaxy together. Weeks passed. Ryan watched the hatchlings grow in size, strength, and confidence. Sul could now glide across the station with controlled bursts of energy. Loom could manipulate energy flows with precision, and Shade's small wings could lift it fully off the ground for short flights. One evening, Ryan sat in the observation room. The hatchlings gathered around him. Sul perched on his shoulder, Loom curled against his side, and Shade rested nearby. The stars outside were calm, shimmering like scattered diamonds. "You've grown fast," Ryan whispered. "Faster than I could have imagined, but we're not safe yet. The galaxy will keep watching. We have to be ready for anything." The hatchlings responded with soft, confident chirps, their small bodies glowing faintly in the dim light. Ryan smiled. He had started this journey thinking he was protecting them, but in truth, they were teaching him something too, the power of trust, loyalty, and courage. And deep down, Ryan knew that the real test was not over. The monarch had returned, but the galaxy was vast, and other forces would come seeking the hatchlings. When that day came, they would have to face challenges far greater than what they had already endured. Yet Ryan also knew this. They were not alone. Not anymore. Together, Humyn and hatchlings had formed a bond stronger than fear, stronger than legend, stronger than even the mightiest power in the galaxy. And when the day came that danger returned, they would be ready. For now, they rested. They played. They learned. And in the quiet safety of the station, Ryan realized that this little family, Humyn and hatchlings, was already extraordinary. The galaxy had noticed them. And the story of the human who cared for the lost heirs of the Deadliest dragon was only beginning. Life at Outpost 7 had settled into a careful rhythm. Ryan, Sol, Loom, and Shade had grown together, learning, playing, and preparing for the challenges that the galaxy might bring. The hatchlings, now much larger than when he first found them, were strong, intelligent, and deeply loyal to him. Ryan often marveled at how far they had come. Sul's golden scales shimmered with a steady, controlled glow. Loom's silver-blue wings were powerful and precise, allowing her to glide gracefully, even in tight spaces. Shade's green-black feathers had grown sleek and flexible, perfect for sudden bursts of speed and clever maneuvers. But one morning, the calm shattered. The station's sensors screamed warnings. A massive cosmic storm was approaching, energy waves so strong they could rip apart entire planets and tear through the station's defenses. Ryan's heart pounded as he activated emergency shields, but he knew the danger was far beyond what any shield could fully contain. He gathered the hatchlings, his voice urgent. "Sol, Loom, Shade, we have to stay together. This storm, it's dangerous, very dangerous." The hatchlings chirped softly but confidently, huddling near him. They had grown strong, yes, but Ryan knew even their power had limits. He activated every emergency protocol, secured the station, and braced himself as the first wave of energy hit. The storm arrived with a roar. Lights flickered, the floor shuddered, and powerful waves of cosmic energy crashed against the station's shields. Instruments went haywire, and the station rocked violently. Ryan gritted his teeth, gripping the hatchlings close, trying to stay calm. Then he realized something extraordinary. The hatchlings were reacting. Sol leapt from his shoulder, spreading wings wide, and a controlled wave of golden energy shot toward the shield controls. The sparks interacted with the station's power systems, stabilizing some of the failing circuits. Loom followed, her silver-blue glow weaving intricate patterns of energy that absorbed portions of the storm's force. Shade darted around the room, small green-black sparks flaring wherever weak points appeared, reinforcing walls and systems. Ryan watched, awestruck. The hatchlings were not just helping. They were actively protecting the station. Their growth and training had prepared them for this moment, and their bond with him was stronger than any shield, stronger than any material defense. The storm intensified, waves of raw energy slamming against the station. Alarms blared and Ryan's heart raced, but he realized that he no longer felt helpless. The hatchlings were not small, vulnerable creatures anymore. They were his protectors, his family, and his strength. "Good job," he shouted over the alarms. "Keep going, we can do this together." Sul, Loom, and Shade responded immediately, their energy flows harmonizing with the station's systems. Sparks, glows, and flashes danced around the room as the hatchlings stabilized the structure, turning what could have been total destruction into a controlled, survivable challenge. Outside, the cosmic storm raged, waves of energy bending space itself. Ryan could see the glow of the hatchlings through the observation window, their forms small against the vastness, but shining brightly with determination. Hours passed. The station shuddered under repeated blows, but Ryan never lost hope. Every time a weak point appeared, one of the hatchlings was there to reinforce it. Every time a system faltered, their energy compensated. By the time the storm began to subside, the station was battered but intact. Ryan sank to the floor, exhausted, and looked at the hatchlings. Sul perched proudly on a console, Loom hovered gracefully nearby, and Shade twitched playfully as if proud of their work. "You saved me," Ryan whispered, voice shaking. I never imagined this." The hatchlings chirped softly, wings fluttering. They had returned the favor, repaying the care and trust Ryan had given them from the very beginning. Days later, after repairs were complete, Ryan reflected on the events. The galaxy had taken notice of the hatchlings long ago, but now their story had changed. They were not only the heirs of the deadliest dragon, they were intelligent, loyal, and capable beings who could work alongside a human to overcome impossible odds. Ryan realized that the galaxy would never view humans the same way again. One human, caring for the lost hatchlings of the most feared species in the galaxy, had changed the perception of his entire kind. Humans were not weak. Humans were not helpless. Humans could form bonds so strong, even the most powerful beings would recognize them. The hatchlings had grown from scared, trembling creatures into formidable allies. Yet, to Ryan, they would always remain the small beings who had first trusted him, curled up in his jacket in a crashed pod, depending on him for survival. That memory filled him with warmth. One evening, as the stars glimmered softly outside, Ryan sat with Sol, Loom, and Shade. They nestled around him, their tiny glows illuminating the room. The dragon monarch had returned once more, observing from afar, but it did not interfere. It seemed satisfied that its heirs were safe, protected, and thriving under Ryan's care. Ryan spoke softly, almost to himself. "You've grown so much. You're more than I could have imagined. But remember, no matter how strong you get, I will always be here for you. Your family." The hatchlings chirped in agreement, curling closer to him. Sul rested on his shoulder, Loom pressed against his chest, and Shade perched on his knee. For Ryan, there was no greater moment than this: peace, trust, and the bond of family. Weeks passed. The galaxy remained watchful, but no immediate threats arrived. The hatchlings continued to grow, their powers developing at an astonishing pace. Sol learned to control bursts of energy with incredible precision. Loom could manipulate minor energy flows to influence small systems and objects. Shade became clever, using strategy and instinct in ways that impressed even Ryan. The Council occasionally sent communications, requesting reports and updates on the hatchlings' well-being. Ryan always responded carefully, emphasizing safety and growth, never revealing more than necessary. The galaxy had learned a lesson. These hatchlings were not prizes to claim. They were intelligent, living beings with loyalty and awareness. One quiet night, Ryan looked at the hatchlings, now much larger, their wings spanning across the observation room. Sol flicked a controlled spark toward him. Loom created a shimmering glow around a small object, and Shade hovered briefly, testing his reflexes. "You've truly become remarkable," Ryan said softly. "I never thought caring for 3 lost hatchlings would bring me here, but it did. You've saved me, protected me, and you've shown the galaxy something incredible about humans, too." The hatchlings chirped softly as if understanding. They had returned the favor fully, repaying the trust, care, and love Ryan had given them. Outside, the stars sparkled quietly, a reminder of the vast galaxy they all shared. Ryan felt a sense of pride and hope. Humans, no matter how small or alone, could make a difference. With kindness, courage, and trust, they could form bonds that even the most powerful beings could not break. As he looked at the hatchlings curled around him, Ryan whispered a promise. "Wherever the galaxy takes us, we face it together. You saved me once, and I will always protect you. Always." Sul chirped softly. Loom nudged his hand, and Shade fluttered its wings in agreement. Together, Humyn and hatchlings had faced storms, threats, and fear. Together, they had survived. Together, they had proven that even the smallest acts of care could create legends. And in that quiet moment, Ryan knew the truth. The story of the human who cared for the lost hatchlings of the deadliest dragon would never be forgotten. It was a story of courage, trust, and the extraordinary power of kindness. A story of humans, worthy, capable, and remarkable in the galaxy. And it was only just beginning.